There is a story I would like to share with you. I remember it really well, so well that it seems like it just happened yesterday. Really, it happened many years ago. When I was young, I was a young student at Gallaudet University. It all started when I went home to New York for the summertime. That was after my first year at Gallaudet. I spent the whole month of June looking for a job. It was really difficult to get work because there were so many young students like myself searching for a job. It was a really frustrating experience for me. Each time I would go into the office and I'd like the job and they would look at my face and I would say no. I would hear no, sorry, there's no openings. Then one morning I was reading the newspaper and I saw an ad for dishwashers. And I really thought, I could be a dishwasher. That's fine. I'm really eager. I really want to work. So I went to the office. It was on 47th Street. I was really excited. It was my first time to apply. So I arrived there and I filled out the paperwork to apply. Then I stood there and waited and in line and lastly I was the last one to go in. So I went in, they called me and I went in, gave him my paper. There was a man there and he stood there with black glasses and he must have been the boss. I gave him my resume and he read it over and he looked at me and he started to talk to me. And I tried to explain to him that I was deaf. I can't hear you. Please speak slower. Or what? I would tell him, and the man said, what? And I said, well, I can't hear. I'm deaf. And the boss said, oh, okay. And he pointed and said, oh, that's a door. And so I was trying to follow his instructions. So I went to the door, and I walked through it. And behind me, the door shut. And I found myself that I was in the hallway near the elevator. And I thought I recently was on this elevator, and I came up to this floor. He dismissed me without an explanation. I stood in that elevator, and as the elevator took me down, I remember feeling I was so depressed. And I thought to myself, why can't he accept me? Why can't... I didn't even get a chance to explain. I'm a good worker. Just dishwasher. Does that really require me to hear? So when I got outside in the street and I saw all these people walking back and forth, walking by me, and I was just so disoriented, and the sun was pounding down on me, and slowly I walked through the city. Then I stopped and I thought, if I'm going to give up so easily like that, I don't think I can do that. I'm not going to get far in life if I'm giving up. I always think about that. And I thought I better go back up there and discuss with him and talk to him. So I turned right around and I walked into the building. I went up in the elevator and I took the elevator up and I wrote a note for that boss. And when I went in and they said, excuse me, you can't go in, but I just forced my way in there and I gave him the note to the man and to the boss, and he took it and I just left. Oh, and I wasn't going to leave. And I said, I'm not going to leave until you read this note. So he opened the note. And I explained in that note that I was a really great learner. I was a really fast learner. I was a college student and I need a job. And dishwasher, it really doesn't require you to hear. You can see I'm a strong young man. I could do the work. And then he read it and he was surprised that I can write so eloquently. So he told me to sit down. And he asked me if I can read lips, and I said, well, yeah, a little bit. Okay, well then, can you talk? And so we had a little bit of dialogue, and I got the job. I was so happy. I'll never forget that day when I arrived that summer. It was really beautiful trees. I remember at summer camp when I rode there, and it was just so beautiful outdoors. I was so excited. I was so excited to get into be a job and start washing dishes. So I was washing them and going about my work. But really, I hated washing dishes, but it was a job, and it wasn't a horrible life. For the next month, I worked and worked until the last day of the camp director. He was looking for volunteers. They were asking for volunteers, and I said, "Oh, I'll do it. I want to, because I really wanted to get out of that kitchen." So I was glad. So early in the morning, I joined all the farmers in the group, and we were digging the soil and putting the hay on the wagon for them to bring it around and put it into the barn that was really on the other side of the campground. So we were working all morning, shoveling the hay, and it was heavy. Oh, and my hands, they were just cracked and blisters all over, and yellow and just so tough. But I kept to myself, and I held it in, and I just kept on going until it was afternoon and it was time for lunch. So we all went into the cafeteria and we sat to eat, and then after lunch, oh, I was so tired. I decided to go to the tree and lay down and take a nap because I was so tired. Then when I woke up, I found that I was the only one here. I found myself alone. Everyone had gone back to work. Oh gosh, I thought, oh, I'm late. So I ran, and I got my pitchfork, and I rove. I arrived to see all the men, and I saw the foreman standing on top of the hay bale, looking like, "Where were you?" And he kind of teased me a little bit. So I stood there. My first time, and I turned around to leave, but then I thought, I just kept my mouth shut, and I thought it would be better to keep working. So I turned around, and I thought I should go ahead and start shoveling or pitchforking the hay back into piles, and the piles grew and grew, and I moved, and it was just more and more on top of that wagon, all the hay. And there were black clouds were coming overhead, and it seemed like there was going to be a thunderstorm any time, so soon. So I thought I better hurry up and get this work done, and I could put all the hay that I can on the wagon. And I put it all on top of the wagon, and then it was almost about to rain. So we were all working and working so feverishly. It was really crazy, but when I arrived back at the barn, the manager, the head foreman, and me and the other workers, and they told me to go onto the loft and stay there, and they told me, the other men, to put all the hay up on the loft, and my responsibility was to separate the hay and put it into piles, and it just coming at me. So the two men were just fastly shoveling the hay out there, and I was trying to take my time and divide the hay, but it was just coming so fast, and there was so much dust, and I couldn't breathe. Oh, and I was coughing, and the hay just come flying at me. And I could see that the foreman was pleased with that I was having such a struggle. And I didn't know if I could continue. For a minute, I thought I was just going to give up. So the man told me that we would come and switch places. So I came down off the loft, and the air felt so good. It was breathing in my face, and I felt inspired again. And now it was my turn. So I got my pitchfork, and so quickly I was shoveling the hay onto the left, faster than they can handle it. And the hay was just toppling over him, and I just kept going, and it was just flying all over. So they told me to stop. And then, at that time, the lightning struck, and the rain just came pouring down. And I went and I fell down outside onto the ground, and I let the rain just fall onto my face, and for a long while, and then I fell asleep. When I finally got up and wiped the rain from my face, it was almost time to leave, And I saw the manager foreman with his hat on, smoking a cigarette, thinking about something. And I approached him, and he put his hand on my shoulder. And I felt like that decision was a good one, that I could make a kingdom. And he was proud of what good work I did. So as I walked outside, and I continued walking,